Hey everybody, Greg here at Videomaker. Today we're going to talk about the swish or whip pan transition. So if you don't know what a swish or whip pan transition is, here's what it is. Okay, so you can see here that basically what we do is we start on shot A, we do a quick left to right pan, and then basically in between that pan we join up with shot B, which is also a quick left to right pan that lands on the framing we want. So it gives kind of a nice energetic sort of transition. It can also be good for sort of bridging the gap in time. So let's take a look at what we have here. So shot A here, which is the traffic, is essentially a static shot that we're holding, and then toward the end of the shot when we think, okay, this is where we want our transition, we just do a quick right hand pan. Now in real time it's pretty fast, so you can see it there. And then we just stop. And then what we do with shot B, now keep in mind this is a left to right pan. So in shot B, same idea, but we start with our left to right pan. So basically we start from the left, and then we do a quick right pan and we land on our framing. Now this is the trickiest part because you have to land framed and it's a pretty fast pan, so it might take you a few tries, but it's not too tough. So, and then what we do is with shot A, we basically mark out, midway through that fast pan. And then with shot B, we mark in midway through our fast pan. So, there's our in right there. And then what we do is we just join them up. So let me click into the timeline here and zoom in. I'm gonna right click and ripple delete. So essentially if I were to go frame by frame, this is shot 1 and then we just simply cut to shot 2 and it finishes. So let's take a look at that transition in real time. Pretty snappy. All right, so that looks good. If for whatever reason the cut seems a little too obvious, you can always add a transition. So I'm gonna do Control D for my default cross dissolve. And then I'm just gonna shorten it to like maybe 3 or 4 frames because you don't need much because really it should blend pretty well. So now, all right, perfect. So that's how you make it in the field, and then you just simply butt the 2 clips up together in editing. But if you didn't do that and you had these same 2 clips and you wanted to fake this idea, there is a way to do it. So let me click over here on my fake it. So I'm gonna double click shot A. So let's just say shot A was static and we had no movement at the end of it. And then let's say shot B was static. So again, let's just say that it was sitting there and we had no movement to it. Well, what you can do is basically overlap them, and let's say in this case we'll go like 14 frames, okay? So overlap the 2 clips, and then you're gonna basically have one clip push the other off. So I'm gonna start with shot A here, and let's go to effects, actually effect controls, motion. So I'm gonna set a keyframe for position, and then I'm gonna move forward 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Let's just do 12. I'm gonna set another keyframe. And the idea here is that, let me turn video layer 2 off. The idea here is that this shot will slide off to the left, sort of like if we were to pan to the right. And let's go ahead and just click here and say -960. And what that does is it moves it exactly off the edge. So if I move it a little bit to the right, you can see there, -960 is basically perfectly right at this edge. Okay, so now let's take the top clip, turn it on, set a position keyframe. If I click down here, these triangles will move me back and forth between keyframes. So I'm gonna go back 1, click on my top layer here, set a keyframe. So this guy wants to come from the right into the middle. So basically, if we do 960 times 3, we get 2880. So I'm gonna click in here and say 2880. And now if I move forward, you can see that one shot pushes off the other if I do it in real time. Okay, so we're on our way. One of the reasons I'm using these position keyframes is because as we get a little bit further down in this effect, I'm gonna add some easy ease in and easy ease out to the keyframes. If you don't feel like you need to do that, if you wanna keep it a little bit simpler, you can just use a push transition here. So let me just go ahead and quickly do that and sort of uncheck the position, okay, and reset it. And then let's take the bottom clip, uncheck position, and then reset it. So what you can do is rather than having these overlap by 15 frames, I'll just have them basically meet in the middle, and then under effects, I've already searched for the push transition. I can drag that on there. And by default, it moves this way, but if I want to change that, I can highlight that, go to Effect Controls, and click Reverse. So now I've got that same idea here where one shot pushes off the other. Again, the main difference being that I wouldn't be able to add an easy ease in and out, which sort of makes that speed gradually speed up and gradually rest on that final shot. So let's get back to the other sequence here. The next step is going to be to create a adjustment layer. So new item, I can either right click in this empty area, or if I stretch this out a little bit, I can click on the new item. And let's do adjustment layer, and that's all fine. So if I pull this on above these two clips, and then I can basically cut it off to where it doesn't do anymore. So what I'm going to do is add a directional blur to this adjustment layer. So if I highlight it, I go to effects, and I type in direction. So we have directional blur. Now I do have the BCC ones, but I'm going to use the onboard one for those of you that don't have the plugin. So add directional blur. I go to effects controls. Now if I increase my blur length here, you can see it does a great job, but we don't want it to go up and down. We want it to go left to right. So I'm gonna type 90 degrees in. So that's a little more what we want. And I'm gonna go pretty extreme here. Like say, well, maybe a little less extreme than that. Let's stick with 286 for now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move right in the middle here, and I'm going to go ahead and set a keyframe for that blur length. And then I'm going to go to where our things begin, and I'm going to set another keyframe on our adjustment layer for our blur length, and I'm going to make it 0. And then I'm going to go to our last frame using the triangles again on our adjustment layers. And if I set this to 0, it'll add a keyframe, set it to 0. Okay, so let me zoom in a little bit down here, and let me go ahead and change this to the blur length so you can sort of see what's going on. I can even stretch that out a little bit just so we can see those beginning keyframes. Okay, so we start from 0 on the blur length, we go up to 280 something, and then it goes back down to 0, all while underneath these guys are transitioning. Now that's pretty good. Obviously, to adjust the speed, you can, grab these keyframes and slide them up, and then grab these keyframes and slide them back. But for the most part, that works. Now the only thing that bothers me a little bit about this is if you look here, look at the edges. They sort of get dark because unfortunately with this directional blur, they don't have any sort of repeat edge pixels, which would usually take care of that. One way around this is to go ahead and highlight all of these clips, right click and say nest. And then it's a little bit cheap, but what you can do is just scale it up to maybe like 108 if we can get away with that. And that will basically take care of those little dark edges for the most part. So looks pretty good. I can put that to full so you guys can see it on full here. But yeah, for not having done anything in the field, we might speed that up a little bit, but in general, not too shabby. One final thing you can do if I double click this guy is on these position keyframes over here. Let me drop that down. Sometimes I like to set easy ease on these. So if you right click and go to temporal interpolation, so on the first guys, we're going to do an easy ease out, and on the last guy, we're going to do an easy ease in. And what that will do is it'll gradually start the move and then gradually finish it, which is kind of more like what a regular pan looks like. So again, temporal interpolation, I can say that, easy ease out, and then on the right hand one, temporal interpolation, easy ease in. Now I'm not going to put it on the blur because when you do that, it just sort of doesn't look right. So let's see if that helps. Yeah, I think that helps. Now that does make the little dark edges a little more apparent. So maybe I'll go with my scaled up version here and see. Yeah, so I think that gives it a more of a gradual beginning and end. So looks pretty good. So there you have it. Making and faking a whip or swish transition. I'm Greg Olson with Videomaker. Thanks for watching.
Hey everyone, Mike here. We know the Videomaker community is full of great ideas and insights. So if you've got production tips, tricks, or ideas everyone should know about, shoot an email to editor@videomaker.com and use the subject line video idea. Who knows, your suggestion just might be the next video we post. Once again, send your ideas to editor@videomaker.com, subject line video idea.